Sir Rod Weir built the rural services company which today has become PGG Wrightson, one of the giants of our rural sector. His career was grounded on selling, the root of all business endeavour.
Well, I have believed for a very long time that we ended up with 4,500 staff years ago, and we were in a complex type of business, selling sheep, wool, finance, banking to the farming industry, sale yards, etc. And I would never, so I became the managing director and the chairman of the company, but I did know and understand the business very well indeed, and I wouldn't ask any of the staff to do a job that I wasn't prepared to do myself. So my belief in that leadership style is to have a very deep knowledge of the business and to make sure that when you ask someone to do it, you know what they're doing and what they're asked to do.
Does that mean that you think someone who helicopters into a trade which they haven't grown up in as a sort of professional manager is less well equipped to do the job?
I think so, yes.
All right. Can you then just focus in and tell me, if you look back on yourself, what would you judge was the single most important business skill which you possessed?
Yes. I started work as a young boy, 15, because my father died when I was 12 years old. And what was the best skill I had? Well, I learnt the business. I had probably the hardest job I had was balancing the postage book when I was 15 years old, until I found out that some of the staff were sending postages to their boyfriends and not recording it. So I then started to learn about the business, and the single most skill was my ability as an auctioneer. And when we started our company in 1963, we had over 90% of the auctions in the district. We took off the major companies, mainly because of that skill.
And that's the gift of the gab?
No, it's understanding the product that you're selling and the way that it's put before the public. Not gift of the gab, no.
So deep product knowledge.
Deep product knowledge.
And being able to convey it.
That's right, David, yes.
What personally drove you to the success you enjoyed in business?
Well, I've thought about that, and I think that it was unrelated to business. My father died aged 40, and he was also in the business. He was the manager of the Lona Mercantile in the Wairarapa. And I remember going to the hospital one day to see him, and he said to me, "I'm going to die. You're the eldest in the family. You look after the family," which was a stupid thing to say to a 12-year-old boy. But he did say it, and it did motivate me, because within a week he did die. And I have a very famous sister who's the world's greatest organist, and she's a dame and lives in London. And she at that time was 2 months old in a pram. So I think I was then motivated. I thought, I'm going to do something about trying to get some assets together to look after the family and myself. So that was a terrifically, motivating thing for me. And I really think that motivated me a tremendous lot, because I left school on the 15th birthday and joined the firm at 19 shillings a week, and started work on the 3rd of August, and my birthday's the 14th of July. So 2 weeks later, my 15th birthday, I started work.
Right, that's interesting. That's your motivation.
Yes.
If I can reflect that back then on, you had a company with 4,400 people.
Yes.
How do you get the best out of people?
Well, by talking to them regularly, by ringing the managers early in the morning and at night, and calling on them as often as you can, because the higher up the ladder you get, the less you can do that. But I kept in very close touch with the staff through the managers of the branches, and also many of the clients, as many as I could. So I think you have to keep in very close touch with the business and know where it's heading and what it's doing.
Is there a danger for managers to be trapped in their offices and become divorced from businesses?
I'm sure there is. I think so. I think that's recognised by the change in business today. If you take the trading banks, for instance, the managers used to be a very big part of the scene in almost every respect, and now there aren't any managers. The bank, in most cases, there aren't. The banks operate through the businesses through computers and head office, and they've cut the staff right down. So there has been enormous change. So I think the answer is yes.
All right. That leads me quite nicely on to talking about mistakes. I want to ask you to reflect back, what was your biggest mistake? Why was it a mistake? And what did you learn from it?
I don't know. I've thought about that. It's hard. I think we all make mistakes, and I've made plenty. But I think probably my biggest mistake was trying to integrate businesses outside the business I knew and understood so well. And I think of occasions when I tried that, the business was not successful and I didn't have the depth of knowledge to fix it. So I think it's a very important thing in business to study, understand and stick to what you know.
Is it good to fail sometimes in business because it teaches you?
Absolutely.
I want to move on to life lessons. If there was one thing that you've learned through your career that you wished you had known when you started out that would have given you a help, what is that one thing that you would pass on to people?
Yes, our business, and indeed most businesses, are selling organisations, whether they be a manufacturing unit, a service industry, or particularly a stock and station business. And I learnt through the stock and station business never ever oversell, because I've seen so many transactions when the deal is almost complete or is complete, and then the agent carries on and the proposed purchaser starts thinking about things that he would otherwise never have thought of, and starts to get cool on the deal and withdraws. So never ever introduce something to a purchaser that he otherwise would never have thought of.
Very wise words. That's a bit of like, is that over-egging the pudding, like you're hyping up a product
yes.
beyond what it should?
Yes.
Or is it simply not knowing when to shut up?
Yes, not knowing when to shut up, because there's a stage where the purchaser is keen to sign and do it and buy the farm and get on with it, and then the agent often keeps on talking about it in the hope that, well, I don't know in the hope of what, but he keeps on talking about it and introduces something that the purchaser thinks, my God, I've never thought of that. Perhaps I won't do it. I'll think about it. So I think it's terribly important not to oversell and to recognise when the transaction is a transaction.
Know when to shut up. That's
yes.
a very good tip.